Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Matters of Faith, the radio show. Matters of Faith is a show designed to bring issues of interest to you, the listening and viewing audience, that will put a biblical perspective on everyday issues.
Good evening,
I am your
everybody,
host,
and welcome
the
to
Reverend
Matters
Dr.
of Faith,
J. Lauren
the radio
Russell,
show.
and it is
Matters
my
of Faith
job to
is a
engage
show
and
designed to
stimulate
bring issues
dialogue,
of interest to
dialogue that's inspiring, encouraging, and motivating, dialogue and conversations that will help you build your determination, your commitment, and your character, conversations that will help you keep the faith. Everyone born of God overcomes the world. This is the victory that has overcome the world, even our faith. 1 John chapter 5, verse 4. And now, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, without further ado, it is time for Matters of Faith, the radio show. It's Monday, July 29th. It's 8 o'clock, and it's time for Matters of Faith, the radio show. I am your host and executive producer, Reverend Dr. J. Lauren Russell. And tonight we're talking about the article and the topic. Don't believe me? Just watch. We're on our Matters of Faith YouTube channel, as well as our Matters of Faith and J. Lauren Russell Facebook for Matters of Faith radio show. And my very special guest tonight is Reverend Dr. Kimmy McEachin Boyd. Telephone and tell a friend. They don't want to miss this show tonight. We're our guest, Reverend Dr. Kimmy McEachin Boyd, and we're talking about the article and the topic. Don't believe me? Just watch. Please don't forget our sponsors and advertisers, the JLR Company and J. Lauren Russell Consulting, LLC. For all of your church financial consulting needs, we have a website, www.jlaurenrussellconsulting.com. That's jlaurenrussellconsulting.com. Or telephone us at 718-328-8096, 718-328-8096. If you need a church loan, if you need to develop your property, if you want to know how to maintain your church property, if you need to train your trustees, if you need evangelism training, give us a call. We'll help. It's not about the castle. It's about the kingdom. Matters of Faith, the book. Through our Cash App, $ Matters of Faith, the book is $23.92. You can send your check or money order to the Post Office Box 301, New York, New York 10035. That's Post Office Box 301, New York, New York 10035, and address it to the JLR Company. You can also get it as an ebook. Just go to www.smashwords.com/books/view/993177. Once again, www.smashwords.com/books/view/993177. Check out the Eat Okra app for all black-owned restaurants all over the nation. Yes, that's right, Eat Okra. And then subscribe, like, and share our Matters of Faith YouTube channel. We are now broadcasting Matters of Faith on our Matters of Faith YouTube channel. Subscribe, like, and share it with a friend. And also, get your subscription to Better Mag magazine today. A 2-year subscription is only $27.50. Go to www.abettermag.com. That's www.abettermag.com. And now, the article. Don't believe me? Just watch. That article can be found in my column, Matters of Faith, at the Bronx Chronicle, www.thebronxchronicle.com. That's www.thebronxchronicle.com. It can also be found in the Yonkers Insider, www.yonkersinsider.blogspot.com. That's www.yonkersinsider.blogspot.com. Just scroll down until you find my column, Matters of Faith, and there you will find the article, Don't Believe Me, Just Watch. The column is also carried in Better Mag magazine, www.abettermag.com, www.abettermag.com, and it can also be found in Pamela's Big Heart newsletter. Tonight's article, Don't Believe Me, Just Watch. 3 John chapter 1 verses 11 and 12 from the New King James Version. Beloved, do not imitate what is evil, but what is good. He who does good is of God, but he who does evil has not seen God. Demetrius has a good testimony from all, and from the truth itself. And we also bear witness, and you know that our testimony is true. Don't believe me? Just watch. Bruno Mars recorded a song a few years ago called Uptown Funk, with lyrics that say, "Don't believe me, just watch." The driving syncopation and an energetic video makes you want to pat your feet or even join them in their dance. The song went on to win 2 Grammys for Mr. Mars. I looked up the lyrics to see if there was a message that complemented what I had in mind when I entitled this article. What I found were lyrics that matched Bruno's perceived grandeur with his energy. I am a firm believer that a conscious effort must be made so that what we say is reflected by what we do. What we do speaks so loud people can't hear what we say. For those of us who have been chosen to be developers of human potential, our action will speak louder than our words. They speak not in some things, but in all things. Not some of the time, but all of the time. Not for some people, but for all people. Every word and every action count. As a preacher and teacher of the Holy Writ, as well as a prominent and a proponent of engaged pedagogy, I not only advocate for consistency in word and deed, but I work hard to be sure that my actions complement my words. It does not matter what I say if my actions are telling a different story. By the way, neither will yours. I challenge you to be firmly committed to exemplifying what is good for God, that your words and your actions are shouting, "Don't believe me, just watch." Be blessed. And now, here's my question. What do you have to do to ensure that you're communicating what is good, both verbally and non-verbally? Let me ask that question again. What do you have to do to ensure that you are communicating what is good, both verbally and non-verbally? Reverend Dr. Kimmy McEachin Boyd is the pastor of Grace Baptist Church of Yonkers, New York. She received a call to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ in 2010 and another call to shepherd God's people in 2014. Dr. Boyd was licensed by the Bethesda Baptist Church of New Rochelle under the pastoral leadership of the late Reverend Dr. Alan Paul Weaver Jr. in 2010. While attending New York Theological Seminary, Dr. Boyd was assigned to complete her field ministry work at Grace Baptist Church of Yonkers, formerly known as Faith Mission. She learned pulpit ministry and created a Christian education curriculum for midweek Bible study. In the summer of 2016, Reverend Dr. W. Franklin Richardson appointed Dr. McEachin Boyd as the third pastor of Grace Baptist Church of Yonkers. In December of that same year, Reverend Dr. Alan Paul Weaver Jr. and the United Missionary Baptist Association ordained Dr. Boyd, which allowed her to serve as the interim pastor of Grace as she awaited her pastoral installation on June 25, 2017. Reverend Dr. McEachin Boyd earned her Bachelor of Arts degree in Communications from Hunter College and both her Master of Divinity and Doctoral of Ministry degrees from New York Theological Seminary. She is an adjunct professor at New York Theological Seminary, an officer of United Black Clergy of Westchester Incorporated, a member of United Missionary Baptist Association, and soon to be a published author. Most of all, Dr. McEachin Boyd remains a covenant disciple of Jesus Christ and is excited to serve him. Dr. McEachin Boyd lives in Stratford, Connecticut, with her beloved husband, Dr. Timothy Boyd, and they share 3 vibrant children, Miles, Maya, and Mikai. So, Matters of Faith family, would you welcome with me again? This is not her first time, but my very special guest this evening, Reverend Dr. Kimmy McEachin Boyd, pastor of Grace Baptist Church of Yonkers, New York. Well, that should do it. I think I have introduced you properly.
You have.
Matters of Faith again tonight. I'm so glad to have you. I'm so glad to see you. And thank you for taking my invitation seriously and showing up tonight. Hey, listen, let me ask this one question. I ask this of all of my guests. So this is the question I'm going to open up with tonight with you. I read they know a little bit about you. They don't know a lot about you. So tell us something about you that we don't know and we really should know.
I have this comedic side about myself. I like to find the humor in everything. I don't take life as serious as some would think. a person of clergy would. So that's one fun fact about myself. And I also like to run. I used to be on the track team in high school and college. So that's something that I'm trying to get back into.
But did you run track and field? Did you run like the 400, the 200, the 100 meter? Did you run cross country? Did you run the triathlon? What did you do?
So my coach would tell you that I was a long distance runner. I hated long distance running. I felt that I was more of a sprinter. However, my favorite activity would be 400-meter hurdles, 100-meter hurdles. 400-meter hurdles, I could win. 100-meter hurdles, those tall girls with the long legs beat me every time, but I enjoyed it anyway. And ironically, I did well at the triple jump. That
Oh,
was a great event that I participated in. So, but I do miss running often. So I'm trying. And when you don't do it for a while, it's hard to get back into it. So when I went off to seminary in 2010, and it took me a while, between all the degrees to finish, that's when I stopped running. So now I'm trying to pick it back up, and it's not the same. But I still have on the inside. There's a runner.
now, did you see this movie? What was it called? Oh my God. It was about a young lady. I can't think of the name of it. I'll find it before the show's over. But
Okay.
about a lady who had asthma. And she was kind of into different stuff. And, she was getting into trouble. And so she wound up getting on the cross country track team. She was the only one that came out for the team. The only
Oh, only
and she
one.
had asthma.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
oh my God, you have to you would love this movie.
Yeah.
Did you ever see the movie Courageous or Fireproof or any of those movies? Or what about the War Room?
The War Room. Yes.
Same producers did this movie.
Okay.
And I'll give you a little heads up on it. It was really good. She didn't have a relationship with her dad. She wound
Hmm.
up with a relationship with her dad. And he wound up coaching her.
Oh,
It's a very interesting and it's what should I say? It is very, very Christian focused.
okay. So you definitely have to find the name of this movie
I
and let
will
me.
do it. I will find it. I will find it. I have it. I'll look it up. I'll do what I have to do to get it in between times. Maybe somebody that's watching tonight will get it and they'll just text me or text
Drop it into it. Sounds good.
exactly, which is easier than me trying to find it, but maybe they'll do it for me. That would
Uh,
be. But anyway, I'm glad to have you. I'm so glad to have you. I think that you're being with me tonight was serendipitous. I was supposed to have a second guest. I wanted to say that early on, the Honorable Fletcher Perry, who is a dear friend, lifetime friend, who is the immediate past mayor of a little town called Pickens in South Carolina.
Okay.
He is now the immediate past mayor, and their current mayor is also, both of them have been on my show before, but the current mayor is my mentor's son, Reverend Isaiah Scipio. So he's now the mayor of Pickens. Two black mayors in this little bitty town, probably the most, it is it is a 93% Caucasian in this town.
Oh, okay.
Two succeeding black mayors. And
Awesome.
Fletcher was the first, Isaiah the second. So interesting. The interdynamics interesting. I'm going to get them all because I want to talk about what's going on in that town, and why are they able to elect these mayors and so on and so forth, which is a good thing. But anyway, he's not able to make it. He had a last minute something that came up, and he was not able to make it. He is on the flyer that, of course, we saw, but he's not available tonight, so we'll have to have him back on at another time. So those of you who are watching from South Carolina, I promise you, we will get him back on at another time. But tonight, I get to spend this time, and so do you, with my very special guest and my friend, Kimmy McEachin Boyd, Reverend
Thank
Doc.
you. Titles. Thank you so much for having me. This is a wonderful platform that you have, and I like your topics and I like your discussions. So thank you for having me again. It is indeed a pleasure.
Well, it is absolutely a joy, and I thank you because I think that this was one of those topics that, in this interesting piece that you told me about running, actually, in my opinion, it kind of fits right into this whole theme that we're talking about. Don't believe me? Just watch.
Just watch.
Yeah, I mean, you talking about those 100-meter hurdles, and 400-meter hurdles. I've known you now for just about 3 or 4 years, maybe. I would have never guessed that you were a hurdler. Never guessed it. It totally, totally, totally blew me away. So
Yeah.
that's good. I like running. I like track and field. I never ran. I never did any of that. I never played on an organized team. Never did any of that coming up. I think life had a way of kind of keeping me doing other things, like
Mm.
maybe staying alive. And I didn't really get a chance to play any kind of organized sport at all. Although I'm kind of athletic, I think I'm athletic. So when I did go to college, I went to City College, I went to Lehman, and I did there try out for the basketball team, and I made the team.
Okay.
And I got a job at the same time. I took the job. So went my very, very short career.
So
And I used to run with the
short.
girls and the guys that was on the track team. I used to run the tracks with them, and I used to swim with the people on the swimming pool and on the swimming team. And I played tennis with those who were on the tennis team, and
But you
all of
were
those
on the
things.
team.
But life just had a way of kind of keeping me
Busy.
of sports.
Out of sports.
So that's what happened. So anyway, I feel good about it because I like who I am today. And if
Okay.
it wasn't for all of those things, I couldn't be me. So you got to talk to me a little bit about that, though. I'm interested. How did you become a runner?
It was just something, it was something that I started in junior high school, and every my health teacher, every race he put me in, I seemed to win. And he kept saying, "You're a natural talent. You're a natural talent." And you grow up in the South and you don't have a car, you find yourself running to the store, or things, cousins come down from the north, and what do? We play games that required us to run. So um
And where did you grow up at again?
small town called Maxton, North Carolina.
Max? Where?
Maxton. That is the closest big city to us, would have been, or town, would have been Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Okay, okay, okay.
We're not that far from the south of the border of South Carolina. We're like,
Right. Yeah, I know exactly where that is. In
yeah,
fact, I have family in Fayetteville. I have a
oh,
lot of family in North Carolina. A whole lot of family in North
yeah.
Carolina.
Well, you ask them, hey, I met a girl from Maxton, North Carolina. They're like, what?
Yeah, yep, yep. I'll see. I'll talk to one of my I call it my family. We trying to figure it out because our families come from Kinston.
Okay.
It's where my dad is from. And so all of those people from Kinston and surrounding areas, they kind of related.
Okay.
So yep. So we had a family reunion a few years ago. We're gonna have another one next year. But this was the first we had in a long time. There were 300 people there, and that wasn't even a quarter of it, not
Wow.
even. Because I know that because we had a celebration here in New York, in the New York City area, in New Jersey. One of my cousins, who's one of the patriarchs of the family, he's in my dad's generation, they're in their 90s. My dad passed away about 50 years ago, but Alan is still with us, and so we had a celebration of his life, and there was 100 people there, and I was the only one that was there that was in North Carolina. And that wasn't all of the ones who were in New Jersey. In fact, I met one of my cousins in North Carolina who literally, another part of my family that I never met before, had another gathering at the same venue that we had 1 week after we had that venue in New Jersey. And she said there were 100 people there, and none of them showed up. So yeah, we know it's at least 500 of us.
At least 500 of them. Okay.
500. So it just keeps going on and on. But yeah, that's interesting. I'm so glad to hear that little bitty town. And it's interesting because my mom's from South Carolina,
Mhm.
We went there more than we went to North Carolina. Matter of fact, we only went to North Carolina a couple of times. But in South Carolina, like everybody who went to school was involved in some kind of organized sport. Everybody.
Okay.
We didn't do that in New York. Very few, and at least in my area, very few of us actually got involved in organized sports. A lot of guys played basketball. I didn't do it. My oldest brother did. I didn't play basketball. Some other friends, but we didn't have a football team. We didn't really have a track team. We didn't
Okay.
we didn't have those things available to us. And so even when I got to high school, we didn't have a football team. And that was a big thing in high school because I went to an automotive school, so everybody was kind of, big and
Based
scrappy.
on, yeah.
Yeah. And so that wasn't available. I tried out for the high school basketball team in my 12th year, my 12th grade. Um, the guy said I did well, but I was the first one he cut. So it's like, because that didn't work. But if you
That's
try out
funny.
in the 12th grade, I mean, chances are you're probably not going to get picked. Not
Mm,
unless it's Kevin Garnett or something like that. I mean, you can have some supernatural abilities, but other than that, no, we didn't do that. So,
mm.
but that's interesting. And then the funny side, the humorous side. Talk to me about this comedian side of you, and do you do stand up?
No, I don't do stand up,
Wow.
but I I don't have a time to do stand up. And I mean, I don't know. Uh, I like comedy. Maybe that's the reason why I have a comedic side, but no, I don't do stand up. But in every sermon, there's something funny. I mean, granted, the word of God is serious and all that, and it's life applications, but something's going to be funny, be it the introduction, be it close, something in it's going to make you chuckle and say, "Hey, I never thought of it that way."
I
Uh,
agree. I
yeah.
agree. Totally.
So, I just think people need to laugh more, right? And
I agree. I
yeah,
totally. I think we do. I think we do God a disservice when we don't look at the humor sometimes that's found in the Word of God, because there is a lot of humor there. Because God is not stoic. He's not. And you just have to be always so super religious that you can't have fun.
right. And before my call, before I even touch ministry, I'm always one that has something to say. Nothing negative, always positive, but very upbeat. So that just after the call thing happened, then I didn't stop being me. It's just that got a little deeper in the word, but still personality was still there. So
And that's kind of like what the Lord does. I don't think He calls us and takes away our personality or our character,
right.
shapes it so
He
that it
did.
becomes useful in His kingdom building process.
Correct.
So that we don't, because if you lose your character, then you've lost that very special something that He gave you, that He intended for you to use for His purposes. So He won't take that away from you. He'll teach you how to use it.
Amen. Agreed.
Yeah, I think He does that. So talk about your call, because I was out in your bio when I was reading it. 2010 was a kind of interesting year for you because you all had all kind of stuff going on in your life.
All kind of stuff. So it's interesting because I've it's gonna sound odd, but I felt a stirring of some type in 2008, but I didn't hear a voice, I didn't hear anything audible. But I had a hunger for God's word. Like I needed to be in it. I needed to have a dictionary, Bible dictionary. I needed to have the commentary. I needed to have something to go deeper. And so every pay period I would go to, remember when they had Christian publications down on 42nd Street and 8th Avenue? I used to go over there and buy at least $200 worth of material and bring it back home and sit on the floor and just read it all night. And I don't know what that was about, but and then somewhere in 2010, actually, not somewhere in 2010, in April of 2010, I had a dream just as vivid, in a life-size Bible. And I didn't know it was a Bible at the time, but I knew I was inside of a book. and I'm walking on words, and I can pick up words and I can put words back, but I had to put them back where I found them. And it didn't dawn on me until I had to dream the third time that I was walking in a life-size Bible.
Hmm.
And my pastor at the time was reading the very book I'm walking in. And I'm like, Pastor, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. And I'm like, what do I do with this? And he goes, why are you asking me? It's not my word. I ask God. And so I was like, fine, God, what do you want me to do with this word? And I heard the Lord say, preach my word.
Wow.
So that was my that was my second call, because I believe we're all called into salvation. And so and you knew Dr. Weaver from the Bethesda Baptist Church. She was big on the whole seminary experience. Like, you got to go to seminary, got to go to seminary. And I was like, I ain't got seminary money, so good luck with that. And so his thing was, did the Lord call you to preach? And I'm like, yes. He goes, well, then you need to be in school. He goes, and the longer you sit here, the more you are calling God a liar. And I'm like, whoa, whoa. And then he said, and the more you sit here, the more disobedient you're being. So I prayed and I got into seminary. And while I was in seminary, my second year, I felt another stirring, right? And I'm like, what in the world could God be calling me for now? Like, there's nothing else to do. I'm saved and I'm preaching the word of God. Like, this is great. And so and I asked my professor, and I said, is it possible that there's another call? And she chuckled. She didn't answer the question. And about a few more nights, I got another dream, and sheep popped up at my house. There was sheep. I walked in from work, and there was a sheep by the door. He was big and fluffy, and I'm like, oh, I was so happy he was there. And I'm like, I got sheep, yeah, sheep. And then I said, okay, I'm gonna feed you. Let me go change and put on something more comfortable. When I go in the bedroom, there's another sheep, and I'm like, whoa, are you the same one, or did you follow me, or is this a different one? So I had two sheep, and they were hungry, and I didn't had no clue what that dream meant. But my pastor at the time was a dream interpreter, and so he says, bear yourself. God is also he's going to give you sheep to minister to and care for. He's calling you to the pastor. And I'm like, really? That's so then I began to read and research everything about sheep, and why does God refer to his people as sheep. um,
What did you discover when you did that research? Why
uh, I
all
found out that,
his,
yeah,
his
yeah. I found out that sheep are innocent and defenseless. They have nothing to, ward off any enemy or any like that. They need a shepherd. They are also easily led astray. And but with the right shepherd, they can be obedient, and they learn lessons quick after they're taught them properly. And they really feel protected by the shepherd. But not, I'm in this regard, I'm talking about Christ himself, right? So they really feel protected once he breaks them in. There's no going, they don't leave, they don't stray. Um, and they're not the brightest animals, right? They're not out of all animals. And I'm like, Lord, is that what you really said about your? We're defenseless. We're weak. And we're not bright. Um, but they
he said yes.
but and more, it's just one of those things that, and until until you realize that you need saving, and you're not meant to live life on your own, right? In order to get all the abundant life that the Lord wants us to have, we need the shepherd to guide us there. We ain't gonna get there by ourselves. So
We can't do this on our own. We can't save ourselves.
can't save ourselves. We
So
don't have the ability to see this invisible world that's around us. So we don't know, we know there's an enemy. We don't know which way he's coming, right? And so the shepherd is what, guides us to safe pastures. And so
so having said that, I'm just curious now. Call into ministry is a call to lead these sometimes misguided, easily led, um, sometimes referred to as gullible. If you want to get real down in the dirt, is like stupid. Um, but you've been called to serve them, and that call has not stopped.
Right.
It's ongoing. It's continuous.
Yep.
Hmm. Why would you say yes to that?
Well, I mean, I, I haven't really seen any biblical figure retire. Even you might not still pastor a church, but you will still be serving God and God's people to till you close your eyes in some capacity. So it doesn't stop.
Hmm. I'm saying I'm kind of asking the questions because I know there are some people who probably are wrestling with that idea right now, and they think that this is a misguided call. Um, they maybe he's really not trying to get them to come, but just trying to get them to kind of, I don't know, see things differently, but not necessarily come to him and 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 truth and fullness and completeness. And that kind of leads us up to this conversation. Don't believe me, just watch.
Right.
Um, Lord kind of does these things. He calls us, he puts us in a position to be, and then we find ourselves kind of um, struggling even after you've done this for a while with the call, whether it's pastoring or just ministering. And
Right.
it's a difference between the two. And I'm a big advocate of people finding their voice in ministry. Real
Mhm.
because not everyone is called to do the same thing. And I think that
Right.
goes Paul's writing, which says some are given these gifts and some are given that gifts. But all of those things are important to sort of feed, lead, and guide these misguided and sometimes gullible sheep.
True.
So how
Facts.
do you become one of those people that you can say, well, um, don't just hear what I say, but watch what I do in this wicked and cruel, despicable world? How do we get to that point where we can actually become um, um, as visible as we are vocal?
Hmm. Well, for me, I can only say how it worked for me. I'm the chief sheep. I'm stubborn, um, not that bright. So for me, it was a matter of, okay, I got this salvation thing going, and it's like when you first get saved, all prayers that you pray when you first get saved, God answers right away. You be like, wow, this God is just amazing. Like you call on him, he's right there. He provides, he gives, he opens, and um and then as you grow, your prayers aren't answered as immediately or not in the or what you asked for, you don't necessarily get right away or you don't get it all. And so
I mean, the God like says, wait.
yeah, the wait part. So you don't know about the wait until after you're invested. Like I'm in, I love him as he's the best God ever, right? And then you find out that there's a wait. And so for me, it was more of, if I do what's pleasing to God, if I do what his word is asking me to do, then God, it appears that he receives me more. And even if I ask for something and the answer is no, he will tell me why. Sometimes it's because he has something better for me, or what I'm asking for doesn't align with his purpose for my life. And so then I desire to want to be more Christ like, because I know that as long as I am Christ like, I will have God's favor. Now, that might not, I don't even know what kind of theology that is. That's Kimmy's theology, right? That's not scripture. You're not going to find it in scripture, but I do believe in when we are obedient to what he's asked us to do, little do we know that um, we begin to live the way he's asked us to live. And we don't know the impact that that has because everybody's watching.
Mm.
And um and if they see us do wrong, then the first thing, folks will say, that's the reason why I don't go to church. You see, that pastor did that, that church did this. That's I don't mess with those Christians because they two-faced it, they're hypocrites. But when we do right, or we do what's godly or good, they don't speak of that. However, they're not making these indictments
Mm.
about us. If that makes sense.
It makes perfectly good sense because, um, I said it in the article, I say it again, what we do speaks so loud, people can't hear what we're saying anyway. So they're watching.
Right.
People watching everything that you do. They're watching everything that you do. They're listening to words that you speak, but more than that, they're watching what you do. Because if they see you, at the bar, hanging out, doing all these different kinds of things, even though the Lord said, go ye into all the world, and
Right.
you want to go where the people are that don't have the light, you want to be the light. But when people don't understand that, they sometimes misinterpret it. And so it becomes somewhat of a paradox that you are sent into this world of wretchedness, but when you get there, people say, you see, it's like they say, gee, you see, if he had known, he should know this woman was a she's a prostitute, and he shouldn't have been having nothing to do with her. And Jesus, interestingly enough, he kind of flips the script on them.
Right.
As he says to Simon, he says, let me ask you a question. He says, two people owe money. One
Hmm.
of them owes a great deal and the other owes a little. But both of them are forgiven. Who do you think is most grateful?
Right. One who owes the
Simon said,
most.
well, I think the one who owes the most.
Right.
Yeah, true. And it's interesting because he kind of leaves it there hanging for them to absorb for themselves that yes, the person who is the greatest sinner has the greatest benefit and has the most to benefit, and they are the most grateful.
Right.
So, but if we are not there with them and for them, then they'll never be able to receive that blessing that they have that God had in store for them. So we've got to walk in that place, but we got to do it in a way that does not defile the vessel.
Right. And I think that's where we are now. I was reading. I read the article that you wrote. I went and I looked at the lyrics myself from Bruno Mars. And I'm like, wow, I forgot all about this song. And then I read the text. I actually read all of John,
Right. Right.
third John, and I was fascinated with the fact that um, the text itself is really talking about being kind to Christians, right? And not doing evil deeds and not shunning one another, right? And what was the second gentleman's name in the text? So you got Gaius, and then you got um
Demetrius.
well, Demetrius is the one who reaped these awesome benefits from Gaius, but
Right.
there is an antagonistic fella in the text. I think his name is
Diotrephes.
Astrophes.
Diotrephes.
The Astrophes, right? So he is ruthless. He's in the church and he's being a little ruthless. He doesn't want to help anybody. He's really liking his position a lot, right? And and he's not trying to be he's not giving out any charity whatsoever. And so therefore he is the one who's doing evil deeds, and John is telling uh Gaius to, like, you're doing good, maintain doing that good because your good is doing more good overall, right? That's the hospitality that we should. But I wondered, was he implying that the other gentleman was a false prophet? And he said he's still saved, but his works are questioning his salvation, right? The fact that he is not as friendly and open and helpful, and he's too pious, right? And so I think that's the state that we're in, that we're too friendly with the world because we want the world to come in. And we have to go out there and not only witness, but participate in what they're doing, hoping that they'll follow us back to the church. And we find out that they're not, because once they see us and they see us participating in everything, it's like, oh, there's no difference between you and me. I don't have to go where you go. I don't have to believe what you believe.
Music, it's all the same.
Right.
So, it's interesting. I preached a sermon years ago about theatrophies and talked about the enemy that's in the church. So you come in and you think that you're in the sanctuary. You think you're in a place where people are loving one another and they're nurturing each other. And you find out that some of those sheep that you talked about are actually goats.
Yeah. Yeah.
Goats and some of them are wolves and they have on sheep clothing, but they're in the church. And some of them are biggest tithers. They're involved in everything that you can possibly think of. They're on the trustee board. They're on the deacon board. They're ushers or ushers. They are on the stewardship team. They're cooking in the kitchen. They're doing everything, and they've permeated themselves throughout the church.
Right.
And so it says, right, it says, I like this. I didn't write about it, but it's there. I'm glad that you read it. It says, I wrote to the church,
Right.
but
They
Yah,
ignore.
who loves to have the preeminence among them, does not receive us. He want nothing to do with us.
Right.
Therefore, I come. Because if I come, I will call to mind his deeds which he does, prating against us with malicious words. Not content with that, he himself does not receive the brethren,
Right.
and forbid those who wish to, putting them out of the church.
Right.
So
Right.
so so what happens when your enemy is supposed to be your friend?
Right.
So
Years ago, I'm gonna say his name, Creflo Dollar,
yes,
someone from his church. Now, this was before we all got, this was before COVID, and this is all before all churches was up on Facebook Live and Zoom and all of that. He went to his church and he said that his plane was old and he needed a new G5, 20 G5, right? And so, um, and that was part of morning announcements. Now, how it becomes headline news, how it becomes talk in our own churches is because someone who was a member of that church decided to make a public statement about it. And then all of a sudden now Creflo Dollar's bad pastor because he wants a G5. And it's like, well, didn't he already have a plan?
yep.
Right. So the thing is, we all have cars, and it'd be nice if I could keep my car forever. But at some point, the repairs are going to be more than what the car's worth, and I'm going to have to get a new car. So if you bought or if you helped him get the first plane and you go to his church, you can either say, look, Rev, I'm not part of that. I'm not part of the plane ministry, right? I wasn't for you having one the first time. I'm not for you having one the second time, and be done with it. But the fact that you revealed it in a way that made it seem as if, like, this man of God can't be on a commercial flight, and he's burdening the church with this large expense. You make a church. That's how y'all roll. So my thing is, had you
And he
not
had and
aired,
he had churches around the country
right, right.
that he was
But
going.
that part
No,
wasn't revealed.
no, that
What
didn't
was
didn't
revealed,
even talk about
my pastor, whose last name is Dollar, is asking for a plane,
it. Right.
and it costs millions of dollars, which we can't afford. And so, in that respect, I see the intention was evil because you didn't like what was going on, and then you aired it
Right.
out
Right.
to a whole group of people who have nothing to do with the church, and then it becomes national news. And so, and in that moment, now people are watching mega ministries. Let's see what they do. Let's do an article on where they live and how big their mansions are, what kind of cars they drive, and then let's investigate in their church and see who's hungry and see who's living in poverty. And it's like,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's
So
exactly.
it matters.
Then you get those Diotrephes and Avius, and they start stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's interesting because this letter that he writes, and the portion that I chose to look at is looking at imitating with that which is good and not following these other things that are going on, because you got to choose which avenue you're going to travel on. You got to choose which leader you're going to follow. You have to make those choices. And some of the choices come from the same place as the others. So, he was a leader in the church, someone that was easy to follow. And so, but John is writing and say, yeah, but you need to follow those who are doing the right thing.
Right.
Points it out to them. And so some have taken it to heart, others have not. For us, thank God, we get the chance to see the whole picture because we've got the Bible. We can see the differences and we can then make choices. But that does not stop the fact that these kinds of things still take place today, and people are still making choices that will literally doom them to an eternal fiery hell, or at worst, it will just make life miserable for everybody around you.
Yeah. I like the fact that although John had already written 2 prior letters, and as you said, the church was not aware of it. So then he was able to write to Gaius, knowing that he was a man that would take the letter serious, and at least alert him of this gentleman who's just thinking all about himself. Like, keep doing what you're doing, and we'll handle the other stuff. But at least the church has a figure that they can look to and mimic these good deeds, right? And perhaps they will follow suit with what you're doing. We're not going to try to overthrow Bishop right now, right? But perhaps if all of you, if you set an example and the rest of the church follows, perhaps it'll touch the heart of Bishop. And if not, then the overall church is still doing the good things, right? So don't stop doing it, and hopefully people will assist you, and all of you will be show
Right,
this hospitality.
right. And that's what we wrestle with every day, in our daily walk, in our daily life. We wrestle with, how do we choose, you know our leaders? How do we choose, who we're following? How do we choose who we are going to spend time with, and not neglect those who need our time, because you can't neglect them because you're just trying to feed yourself. Now, yes, you need to take time to rejuvenate and reinvigorate yourself. That's why I took off last week. I wasn't here last week because you need to do that, because you can become oversaturated.
Right.
And if you're oversaturated, then your message can become diluted as well. So
Mm.
you make sure that you take the time to
Okay.
refresh and rejuvenate. That's
Right.
important. And at the same time, you need to take a look and see what's drawing your energies away, and what's literally, what's the word I'm looking for? What's complementing your ministry, so that
Mm.
you can literally, be empowered while you're empowering. So it's a dual-edged sword. And by the way, the movie, it's called The Overcomer. Overcomer.
I'm gonna write it down. Over.
Write it down. Overcomer. You'll love it. You'll love it. Um, it's an amazing movie. I showed another one of their movies a few weeks ago. We had a outreach with the chaplaincy, um, uh, specifically for the men in the community, and we showed them the movie Courageous,
Okay.
which is another awesome movie. We're going to do it again because we didn't get the turnout that I wanted. We got a result, but it wasn't the result that I wanted. So we're going to try it again. and bring them in and get the young men in the community to come out so that they will kind of stop killing each other. I'm gonna invite the women as well, but I want to target the young men.
Mm-hmm.
Target the young men. Overcomer would be a great movie to target for young women.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna definitely check it out.
Yep. So I give them kudos because
Thank you very much for the recommendation.
oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. And being a runner, you're gonna love this. I love this.
Wait a minute, I used to be a runner. I'm trying
That's
to get
okay. You'll probably figure out another way to do it. You say I'm gonna go out and do it. I
yeah.
like running. My knees can't do it anymore, so I don't. I do a Stairmaster now. Bought a mini Stairmaster. That's what I do. No,
You
say it again.
still using your knees?
Oh yeah. I mean, they hurt a lot, but that's why I don't pound on them.
Gotcha.
I have a bike, so I'm gonna start riding my bike again. So I don't have to, I don't have to burn my knees out. I
Right.
don't want to get knee replacements.
No. But if you had to, you
I
could
will.
bounce back really quick.
Thank you. So listen, technology is amazing. I love modern technology. I love it. I think it's great. I think it's great. So let me ask you this question, and then we're gonna kind of dovetail a little bit because at the top of the hour, we're going to go back. We're going to introduce the article. We're going to read it again. We're going to ask that challenge question again so that everybody can get on the same page. And then we're going to ask our viewers to begin to interface with us and answer the challenge question and maybe pose some questions themselves. So we're going to engage them in this dialogue. So you
Great.
guys are watching, y'all, make sure y'all are engaging. And the question that we're asking tonight is this: what do you, and this is a personal question, this does not have to do anything with your neighbor, this is not your mama, this is not your daddy, this is not your brother, not your sister, not your husband, nor your wife, this is you. What do you have to do to ensure you are communicating what is good, quote, what is good, both verbally and non-verbally? Are your words matching your actions? What do you have to do in order to ensure that you are communicating a single message, that people are not being looking at you, but hearing a whole different story when they watch you?
Wow. That's a hard question to answer.
That's why I asked.
You gotta look within. That's intentional. You got to do some intentional stuff here.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
This is not Sunday school stuff. This
yeah,
is
this is intentional.
you got to dig a little bit. I want you to, I want people to dig. I want them to come back and say, you know what? You challenged me on that one. I had to look at myself and say, wow, am I giving what do people see when they see me? I had a guest on the other night, Reverend Leon Ross, good friend. I love Brother Ross. And he said to me after the show, afterwards, he said, I watch you. So I watch you. He said, I watch how you do all these different things. And he said, and I'm impressed. He said, in fact, I did something in my church. And I thought I was complimented by this, and this is why I'm sharing it. He said, I challenged my church to do something that they've always wanted to do, but never took the time to do it.
Mm.
He said, and I can now play a song on a piano. He said, I always wanted to do it. I never took the time. And now I can play a song I can actually play something on the piano.
Wow.
So, and that's part of it, right? Because if you're talking about it, but you're not being about it, then as James Brown said, you're just talking loud.
You're just talking. You're just talking.
And so many times, in ministry, we get in ministry for all the right reasons, and then suddenly we become the atrophies. People out, we keep them out. You don't do that here. We don't do that here, and you become the antagonist in the church. I mean, you never intended, right? You never intended for that to happen, but all of a sudden you find yourself there.
Right.
Find yourself in this position. and then you start making up reasons why you are that way.
But so actually, I don't know if you have time if you're going to go to commercial.
I,
But
I have 6 minutes.
I think when when someone starts out with good intentions in the church and pastor or leader of a ministry, um, and they have all the good intentions in the world, but then they find that so much of the world is coming inside the church that they find that they have to, do something, or you can't tell the difference between the church and the world. And so that's the reason why some speak out in fear and be like, we don't do it that way, we must do it this way. The Lord told me to do it this way. I can't. I hear your ideal. Your ideal is wonderful, but we can't do it that way. We must do it this way. And I think it's because not so much that they're trying to control the ministry, but I think for some, not all, that they think they may lose the church. Because again, we're making compromises to make everybody feel comfortable, whereas you can't always be comfortable in the church. Sometimes we got to talk about those issues. We have to correct some issues. We have to stop doing some things, and then we have to do some new things, the good things, right? And so if you've been doing bad all your life and now you want me to do good, you're going to step on my toes in order to get the good out, right? I'm just not going to wake up one morning and be like, oh, let's do good. I'm gonna wake up each morning doing what I've been doing for the last 40 or 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So there's pruning. Pruning hurts sometimes, right?
It hurts tremendously. But at the end of the story, but at the end of the day, the blossoms are beautiful. You get a beautiful blossom. But pruning, cutting back, is difficult.
It is.
And I get that. I mean, and I'm not saying that, and certainly I didn't mean to imply even that there are some things that should not take place in the church, that you should not allow to take place in the church, because then if you do, and when I say the church, I'm really not talking about the building.
Right. Right. We're talking about the people. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Because if you allow certain engagements, then what you're saying is that do what's right in your own sight. You can't do that, right? You can't do that, because then the sheep, as you said, that are gullible, and all those other adjectives that describe who they are, they go astray.
Right.
And they have no defense mechanisms. So once they get out there, then the enemy,
Yeah.
the wolves, the lions, everything that's hungry begins to feed on them. And they actually begin to talk about themselves being a wolf, or they identify with those things. But the real wolves know that they're not wolves. They are sheep, and they use them to feed off of. Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
Because if you don't know, and you pretend to be, the authentic folks recognize it on both sides, right? If you are authentically serving the Lord, and you're in that, your deeds and your words match, you can recognize a phony just like that. You recognize bootleg immediately.
Right.
That's bootleg. And you tell us, to stay away from them if you can, because that's danger. And that's what pastors are called to do, right? To protect the sheep, to let them know where the danger is.
Dangerous.
And if you don't do that, then you've endangered the sheep, because you didn't do your job. When the watchman comes down off of the tower, comes down off of the wall, he can no longer sound, or she can no longer sound the blast, sound the trumpet, to let them know that there's danger around. Right? The Old Testament talks a lot about that. New Testament doesn't talk as much about it, but the Old Testament talks a lot about, being a watchman on the wall, and telling people when danger is afoot.
Right.
And sometimes we miss that. And when we miss it, lives are at stake. I mean, truly, not just peripherally, but real lives are at stake. People going to die.
Mm.
And it ain't gonna be pretty either. Not
Mm.
gonna be pretty. So let me see. Let me see if I can do this. Somehow or another, in this new kind of configuration
Okay.
that Facebook, I mean that Zoom has, if I don't have everything up at the right space, I can't see certain commands. So
Ah,
now back at my command.
okay.
So, all right, so I'll put that up. So what we're going to do is you and I are both going to disappear for a few minutes. They won't miss us because our picture's right there on the screen. Um,
Okay.
we're going to disappear, and I'm going to read the article again. I'm going to challenge the audience with that question again so that we will be able to come back, and we're going to finish the conversation that we started on the first half and the second half, but we're going to include those who are out there watching us. They're going to be a part of this conversation.
Awesome. Awesomeness.
Good deal. Please don't forget our sponsors and advertisers, the JLR Company and J. Lauren Russell Consulting, LLC. For all of your church financial consulting needs, we have a website, www.jlaurenrussellconsulting.com. That's jlaurenrussellconsulting.com. Or telephone us at 718-328-8096, 718-328-8096. If you need a church loan, if you need to develop your property, if you want to know how to maintain your church property, if you need to train your trustees, if you need evangelism training, give us a call. We'll help. It's not about the castle. It's about the kingdom. Matters of Faith, the book. Through our Cash App, $ Matters of Faith, the book is $23.92. You can send your check or money order to the Post Office Box 301, New York, New York 10035. That's Post Office Box 301, New York, New York 10035, and address it to the JLR Company. You can also get it as an ebook. Just go to www.smashwords.com/books/view/993177. Once again, www.smashwords.com/books/view/993177. Check out the Eat Okra app for all black-owned restaurants all over the nation. Yes, that's right. Eat Okra. And then subscribe, like, and share our Matters of Faith YouTube channel. We are now broadcasting Matters of Faith on our Matters of Faith YouTube channel. Subscribe, like, and share it with a friend. And also, get your subscription to Better Mag magazine today. A 2-year subscription is only $27.50. Go to www.abettermag.com. That's www.abettermag.com. And now, the article. Don't believe me? Just watch. That article can be found in my column, Matters of Faith, at the Bronx Chronicle, www.thebronxchronicle.com, www.thebronxchronicle.com. It can also be found in the Yonkers Insider newspaper, www.yonkersinsider.blogspot.com. That's www.yonkersinsider.blogspot.com. Matters of Faith, the column is also carried in Better Mag magazine, www.abettermag.com. That's www.abettermag.com. And you can also find the article in Pamela's Big Heart newsletter. Don't believe me? Just watch. 3 John chapter 1 verses 11 and 12 from the New King James Version. Beloved, do not imitate what is evil, but what is good. He who does good is of God, but he who does evil has not seen God. Demetrius has a good testimony from all, and from the truth itself. And we also bear witness, and you know that our testimony is true. Don't believe me? Just watch. Bruno Mars recorded a song a few years ago called Uptown Funk, with lyrics that say, don't believe me? Just watch. The driving syncopation and an energetic video makes you want to pat your feet or even join them in their dance. The song went on to win 2 Grammys for Mr. Mars. I looked up the lyrics to see if there was a message that complemented what I had in mind when I entitled this article. What I found were lyrics that matched Bruno's perceived grandeur with his energy. I am a firm believer that a conscious effort must be made so that what we say is reflected by what we do. What we do speaks so loud people can't hear what we say. For those of us who have been chosen to be developers of human potential, our action will speak louder than our words. They speak not in some things, but in all things. Not some of the time, but all of the time. Not for some people, but for all people. Every word and every action count. As a preacher and teacher of the Holy Writ, as well as a prominent and a proponent of engaged pedagogy, I not only advocate for consistency in word and deed, but I work hard to be sure that my actions complement my words. It does not matter what I say if my actions are telling a different story. By the way, neither will yours. I challenge you to be firmly committed to exemplifying what is good for God, that your words and your actions are shouting. Don't believe me. Just watch. Be blessed. Here's my question for the last time tonight. What do you personally, have to do to ensure that you're communicating what is good, both verbally and non-verbally? One more time. What do you have to do to ensure that you're communicating what is good, both verbally and non-verbally? Well, you've already met my guest. You've heard her speak. You've heard her passion. But now I'm going to tell you some things about her that you don't know. Her Top Gun husband, she'll talk about him. Her educating abilities. Her education. Her building of others that might carry the gospel. And her breaking down barriers. Building the kingdom, not the castle. Matters of Faith family, would you welcome with me again for the second half of our show tonight, my very special guest, my friend and his colleague in ministry, Reverend Dr. Kimmy McEachin Boyd. All right. There you go.
You went and found pictures.
I
No.
did. I did. And I put that up there because I wanted to make sure that people understand that Kimmy is not subject to denominational limitations, nor is she a person who propagates ecclesiastical apartheid. She's about the kingdom, not the castle.
Not the kingdom, not the castle. I like that. I'm gonna have to use that in a sermon.
You can use that. That's my business motto is it's not about the kingdom. It's not about the castle. It's about the kingdom.
Not about the castle. Let me write that down. Castle.
Yeah.
As a good Baptist, I'm gonna give you credit the first time I say it, and then I'm gonna own it.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. But you know, because of that, I really wanted to make sure that people understand that in order to do this work, in order to be transparent, in order to be believable in a holistic sense, you have to do it across the board. You can't just do it denominationally. And I was a denominational worker. I understand that. But I also understand what it means to reach people for the kingdom and make a difference in their lives and bring them to the Lord. And I don't care. Technically, if you don't come to my church, that's fine. I don't care. But just go somewhere. Go learn and grow and develop and choose a good church. Choose somewhere where you're going to be able to, bring out the best in you. And sometimes someone else may be able to do that better than me. And that's okay. I don't have a problem with that. Because if I'm only about building the castle that I'm working in, then what happens to the kingdom?
Right.
If I touch someone, as Paul talks about, if I plant and you come by and you water, and then they go someplace and they flourish.
Right.
They may come back and say, Kimmy, you said something years ago. I mean, you changed my life. And you say, I don't even remember meeting you.
That's funny.
But they know because they felt that they the seed was planted, right? That was your responsibility. You did it. You did it. And then the Lord says, if you do what I ask you to do, I'll take care of all your needs
Mm,
according to my riches and glory. So don't worry about the end. At the end, I just read this, says at the end, everything's going to be fine. And if everything is not fine, it ain't the end.
that's one way of looking at it.
Exactly.
All
So,
right.
yep, yep, yep.
But I know you have some questions to get to,
Oh,
but
right. No, I don't. It's on
I
you.
do the interesting thing, you said something that a lot of non-pastors don't understand. When you open the doors of the church to extend the invitation, and you know, each pastor says something different, but you say something on the lines that, you know, we're extending the invitation for you to become part of this wonderful body,
Mm-hmm.
claiming Jesus as your Lord and Savior. And the body is big, it's universal, and this might not be the home for you, but we can make a referral for you to go and find the right home that fits you and your needs. I got chastised after church for saying that, because someone came in, they liked us, but they wanted to go someplace else, and I was okay with them going, because my goal is, or my desire is, that you be part of the body, and you don't necessarily have to be a part of this branch, but as long as you're part of the body. And so some of my members took great offense, like, we're trying to build our church, we have low membership, we need new members, we need new people, and you just can't. We want to partner with them to find another place to go worship. We want them to worship here. And I'm like, it's not about us. It's not about our local church. It's about the body of Christ. And if we tell them that this is their only option and they don't want to be here, what are they going to do? They're going to stay home.
Yep.
All
Yep.
right. So do we want them to go and be used for God's purpose, and receive all of his protection and benefits? Or do we want to be stubborn and keep them to ourselves? And a lot of people don't understand that.
No, they don't. And unfortunately, they put a lot of emphasis on the numbers of people that are in the building. Well, if COVID taught us nothing,
Right. Building means nothing. It's
nothing,
nothing. Yeah.
absolutely nothing. In fact, more people began coming to church during COVID
Right.
than ever walked through the doors, ever. I've been doing this broadcast for about 10 years now, right?
Wow.
Years. And I did it first on radio. And I remember we used to get maybe, 20, 30, 40, 50 people a week. That was okay. That was good. I had a problem with that. And then one day I was in in South Carolina. I was at a hotel that I didn't want to be at.
Okay.
The Wi-Fi was terrible. Couldn't connect to the digital radio station that I broadcasted from. So one of my regular viewers said to me, she called me. She said, "Why don't you try Facebook Live?" I said, "I never did that before."
Right.
Give it a shot, see what happens. I said, "Okay." So I went Facebook Live that night. I could get Facebook Live. I just couldn't get this internet connection, whatever. Do you know how many people signed on immediately that night?
Wow. How many?
About 900.
Wow. Oh,
Like,
wow.
I'm gonna always do this. This is right. I mean, like, oh, are you kidding me? And so, I mean, I was wide awake. I was excited. Man, I'm in this hotel room. Don't want to be in. I'm great. This is great. I'm live. And they can actually see me, not just hear me, but they can see me. So what I started to do was broadcast it live. And then I would also, because they could call in on the radio show. They
Okay.
could call in. So I started doing both. They could see me and then they could call in. So we had it going both ways. Well, then
Mm.
the person who was my producer lost their contract. I was like, okay, well, I was doing Facebook Live. I found it, because somebody referred me, and I just kept doing it. And it garnered more people watching than I ever thought possible. So at one point, when I was just doing strictly Facebook Live, I was averaging over 700 people a week on Matters of Faith, on
Wow.
Matters of Faith, which is an amazing feat because many of these people I've never seen in my life. I have no idea who they are. I don't even know where they are. And I remember one day, my wife and I went to the movies right up here in Bay Plaza. And a young lady approached me. She says, "Oh my God." She was all excited. Oh my God, it's very Russell. And I'm looking, I'm saying, "Well, do I know you?" She said, "Oh, I watch you all the time. Oh my God, you're so good. Thank you so much." And her boyfriend was standing there. Boyfriend was coming out the restroom. He came out the restroom. Big guy, he's like 6'4", big muscular guy, right? So I was like, "Oh, okay." So he said, "I want to introduce you to Reverend Russell." So he said, "Reverend Russell, this is my boyfriend, blah, 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 blah." I said, "Oh, it's good to meet you." Evelyn sees us, so I introduced my wife to him. And so I'm looking, I'm saying, I have no idea who these people are, none whatsoever. But something was connecting, and there was something that was coming out of that was good
Good.
and pure. And that's what really keeps me connected. And I've been talking about it's not the castle, but the kingdom long before I ever did this show. So I've been talking like that for at least the last 20 years.
Wow.
So that was pre-COVID, that was pre all of this stuff. And so now it's real. The reality is showing up. And so sometimes, does it feel like you're not making the connections? Yeah, it does. But the Lord is the one that gives the increase, right?
Yep.
So I'm not so concerned about the numbers. I serve a church now. As you know, it's not a Baptist. I'm Baptist. It's not a Baptist church. Evangelical Church of God. Hey, y'all, I love you. I love you. Nothing you can do about it. And I'm serving them for the last 4 years. And I'm serving them because they are people who want a relationship with the Lord, and they want to maintain that relationship with the Lord. And they have received me as being the spiritual overseer, or I am the clergy leader of this congregation. They are small in number, but every time I put their service on my Facebook page, we get from 200 to 400 people every single week. So why would I stop doing that?
Right.
And just focus on trying? Well, you need to come to this church. A lot of people listen to those services that are members of other churches. I'm not a sheep rustler. I'm not trying to rustle nobody's sheep. Stay there. I'm helping you to be a better sheep where you are in your sheepfold. Is that okay?
That's fine. That's amazing.
I'm helping you to be a better sheepfold, then your pastor will become a better pastor because he's got better sheep to work with.
All right now.
I'm good with that. So I'm looking at it and saying, okay, so what is my role? Am I a pastor? Yeah, but am I a pastor of a local church? No, I am. I'm
You are.
Evangelical Church of God, but my pastor is a lot larger than that. And I have to continuously remind myself of that, because sometimes you look and you want to see the congregation, you want to see all of those things. But if I'm able to do the ministry that the Lord has placed in my heart, and I'm able to reach the people, and I'm able to give them the resources that they need in order to become the best that they can be, am I doing the Lord's work?
Yes, you are. Sounds like it. These are words I need to hear. Thank you.
Well, yeah, I mean, you are, as a pastor, amazing. It's a local congregation. Local congregations need local help. They need local support. You give them that, right? And then you show them how to go forth into the world and then do exactly what they've been commissioned to go into all the world and preach the gospel. Some of them you will compel them and they will come. You don't have to hit them upside the head.
Beat him. Can't beat him up.
No.
I can't
And
take the Bible and beat him up. I
no,
can't.
no, no. They'll come because they want to.
Right.
If they come because they want to, nothing you can do to get them out. I don't care what you do. They go, I'm here. That's it. I'm here. I'm here. And that's the point that we're trying to make, is that we're building the kingdom. And if it just so happens, I mean, think about this. You mentioned Creflo Dollar with the plane. Creflo's church was it's a mega church. I mean, how much money they bring in every? I don't know how much money they bring in a month. I don't, a year. I don't know. Millions of dollars, right?
And
Millions and
several locations, right?
several locations all over the place.
Several.
I have a friend. He's been a guest on my show. I have a couple of guys, but one is an absolute friend. I can call him by first name, and he'll be back. He pastors. He says one church in 3 locations.
Mm.
He was in Louisiana, Louisville,
Louisville.
no, New Orleans, New Orleans.
Okay.
Right, he had church, mega church. They had like 6,000 people. That was the church, great church. Then Katrina hit,
Mm.
right? So here's the story. And Fred, I'm telling you a story. So if you listen, I'm telling it. So you got to come back and tell us yourself. A couple of thousand people wound up in Houston.
Okay.
Another 1,000 wound up in Baton Rouge.
Mm.
So he was in Texas. He had to go to Texas. So he's in Texas. He says he's a little depressed. Him and his wife. So he says, man, I'm going out to Houston, and I'm gonna get together with the folks that left there. So he called a friend of his who let him use the church to gather his people together. So he started having services for them, a couple of thousand people. Then the third Sunday, he would drive up to Baton Rouge and have a service for those 1,000 people. Did the same thing over there. And then they were rebuilding the church in New Orleans, so he would go back there and get with as many people as he could, and so on and so forth. Made it work. They did virtual church, all that kind of stuff. Well, they rebuilt the church. Now the church has something like, I don't know, 8,000 or 9,000 people in it. And church, he established a church in Houston. Franklin Avenue Baptist Church, Franklin Avenue Baptist Church, Franklin Avenue Baptist Church.
Okay.
And so he would travel. And his wife said, yeah, I want you to understand, he's traveling, not me. He's traveling. So went back and forth. So what he said, I can't keep doing this. So he developed leadership, developed leaders, and they lead the churches in those various locations. He goes there periodic from time to time to minister here, but he's the pastor, but they are running the congregations. He says we have one church in 3 locations. And the church has grown. They're now, I think, something like 14,000 people.
Jeez.
Right? So, had he been of the mindset, you all have to come back here to New Orleans, he'd have missed all of the potential was in Houston and Baton Rouge. You can't be myopic about God's kingdom, because he's not.
All right, let's get to this complicated question you got.
What do you have to do to ensure you are communicating what is good, both verbally and non-verbal? You can start.
I'm actually having a problem trying to answer the question. I'm non-verbally. I'm gonna deal with that part first. So my style of leadership is that I'm not going to ask anybody in the church to do anything that I'm not willing to do. And I'll be the guinea pig. I'll do it first. And then when folks are ready, I'll even continue to still do it with them. Maybe we turn it into something fun. We turn it into an opportunity to share, right? And then it's to empower you, to tell you you can do this without me because I need to go do this other thing. But I'll come back periodically and work with you doing that thing. So that's my leadership style. I'm not asking nobody, and that goes from, and I I'm talking about the bare bones of ministry, or just cleaning the church. Come on, we can clean it together. Come, you don't have time to clean. Fine, I'll do it. Where's vacuum cleaner? Where's this? Where's that? Now, some people take great offense. You my pastor. You ain't supposed to be doing this. Says who? So that's what I do inside the church. Outside of the people, I try to be just as helpful, just as thoughtful. And again, when someone is called into leadership, be it a pastor, a deacon, um, trustee, Saxon, that's what you are. That's what God has called you. You're not that just because you're inside the building. You're that everywhere you go. Whether they have deacon in front of your name, if they have pastor in front of your name, you're still a servant. You're still going to serve. So the serving doesn't stop because I'm not in the physical church building. The serving is everywhere. I don't have a problem. I have a secular job, and so they can't ask anything of me that is demeaning. You want me to do a coffee run? That's not my job description, but you know what? I'm going to get coffee. Where do you want it from? Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts, right? So, and it's like I like her attitude. Now, part of me is like, I hope they don't send me out again. But another part of me is like, listen to I can say hi to security guard. I can say hi to my friend down in Dunkin' Donuts. I can get some fresh air. So I see more good, and then I made somebody's day because I walked by them and I said, "Hello, beautiful. Hello, handsome. Hello, smart child." And so I take it with me. I'm not just doing it in the church building. I'm doing it everywhere else I go. Now, the other part, the first part that I skipped over, how do I communicate this? Action speaks louder than words, I think, half of the time, right? I think it's in John 13. Jesus tells his disciples, they'll know that you are my disciples for the love that you have for one another. So whether people know the word of God or not, the fact that I caring and nurturing and try to have that positiveness and speak life into people. They might not know God's name, they might not know Christianity, but they'll say there is something different about Kimmy. Kimmy looks beyond my faults. Kimmy, I'm feeling all beat up and torn up, and Kimmy is coming over here telling me something positive that I didn't even know, right? So, and this is where the humor comes in, right? So I'm gonna say something that's gonna sound god awful, but I'm gonna say it because it's in my spirit to say it. Before I got saved, before I knew Jesus, I used to have a problem with unattractive babies. That's the best way I can say it, right? And so one one time I rolled up on a baby, and this baby, you could tell this baby went through some things. And when I rolled up on a baby, you know how people are like, oh, such right. I stayed true, but I made the noise like, oh, and it's a beautiful baby. It's a gorgeous baby. And then I had to get out of that. I'm like, all babies are awesome, beautiful, wonderful, a miracle, and all of that. So that's the intentionality that I was talking about before we went to the break. We have to be intentional, right? There's something good in everybody. There's something wonderful about everybody. Just take and instead of just looking at the surface, look within the person and find the good, and then remind them of that good. Like, you got potential. I see your potential. I see your worth. I see your value. You and I are made in the likeness and image of God. And hello, God's just not going to put that stamp on just any old thing. And so the fact that you're made in his image lets me know that you are of value. So how do you communicate that? Say pleasant things. Be honest about what you need to be honest about, but it doesn't hurt to smile, give a hug, give a handshake, say good morning. There was a time I grew up in the South, so you couldn't go on your front porch without somebody waving, saying good morning. And so, little country girl from North Carolina, I brought that with me. Hi, how you doing? If I see your face on the train every day, I'm not just gonna sit and say, "Oh, I know that lady, but I don't know her name." Hi, my name is Kimmy. I see you every day. You know, so I think we're called to make everyone feel comfortable in their own skin, and that's hard to do, but I try my best.
Let me show you what some Daryl said something in my views. Daryl says, me, I'm learning to know me because I'm young. Laugh out.
Mm.
People are so different from one to the next. What one person likes offends the next. I got to go slow. Give them time to get to know me. And then he said, I'm not a pastor, I'm an evangelist. Some of the Facebook groups I'm a member of have over 600,000 members.
Oh.
When I post on those pages, I'm preaching to over 600,000 people. Churches are different now. Church is different now. And that's true. We reach people differently, and people are different in their own way. And so not everybody responds to the same stimuli.
Mm.
But I can tell you this, I was in sales for a long time, sales and marketing. I was a manager, and I had my own agency, and I did all that kind of stuff. And I trained all of my agents and trained them how to sell. I can tell you there are four motivators that make people do things. There are four things that make people act. Y'all can,
Okay.
if you like, if you want to know, I'll tell it to you.
Okay. Let's go.
Four things, four emotions. Number one is love. People will respond or they will do something if they love somebody. And you said it. People will know that you're my disciples if you have love one for another.
Mhm.
Two, greed.
Mm.
Greed is a major motivator. People will do all kinds of things for greed. Third, vanity.
Wow.
Vanity is very, very important to some people. You know, I gotta look good. I gotta have on the right clothing. I gotta have the right brand. I gotta drive the right car. I gotta have, the right stuff.
Mm.
Married to the right person.
Wow.
I'll try it again until I get to the right person.
I'll try it again. Okay.
Yeah. Because the vanity, I'm not there yet. The right jewelry. I won't accept jewelry unless it's the right kind of jewelry. If it's not $10,000 watch, I don't want it.
Oof.
Last one, fear. Fear is a major motivator.
Mm.
People will go out of their way to avoid what they fear. Love, greed, vanity, or fear. These are motivators. As a leader, as a preacher, as a teacher, as an educator, as a person who promotes personal enhancement, whatever that means. It doesn't matter what motivates other people. Your mission is to understand which one motivates that person.
Mm.
And,
Right.
and we used to call them hot buttons. Love, greed, vanity, fear, hot buttons. You have to know which one to press to get them to do something. Is it love? Is it greed? Is it vanity? Or is it fear? And when you find out which one it is, you have to press the button.
Mm-hmm.
The problem that we have as leaders is we don't want to press the button because it makes people uncomfortable. You talked about that, right? You said they're uncomfortable in the church. And sometimes they have to be uncomfortable. Why? Because you're pushing a button.
Right.
Don't want to be uncomfortable. We don't want to make them feel uncomfortable. So we touch it, but we say, oh no, I can't do that because they feel uncomfortable. So we don't do it. But a good leader presses the button and holds on to the button and presses down on the button because that's they know that that's what makes that person respond. Now, what are we in the business of? Our business is saving souls. We can't save a single soul.
Right.
We got no heaven to put anybody in. We got no hell to condemn anybody to.
Nope.
But if we can get them to see the light, then they can respond to that light.
Mm-hmm.
But if we are afraid to press the button because we don't want them to feel uncomfortable, they can miss it completely. So I think all those years I was in sales and marketing and managing and all that kind of stuff, all for this, all for this, all of it for this. Because it's important that we understand how we reach people. When I'm preaching, I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about, in my sermon preparation, how am I going to approach this topic so that I get people's attention immediately? Because I ain't got but 30 seconds to catch your attention, right? Just
Right. As you,
I'll
yeah.
catch it in 30 seconds, it's over. And then I think about, what's the problem? I got to bring the problem to the surface, because if you don't see the problem, you're not going to stay with me. I got your attention, but why am I here? You got to tell me. You got to point out the problem that I can't see. And then I've got to be able to point you in the direction of a solution. What's the solution to the problem that I just told you about that you didn't even know that you had?
Mm.
Now that you got the solution to the problem that you didn't know that you had, now you got to make a decision.
Mm.
Right? What's the decision? Decision is always the same. Will you turn your life over to the Lord, give him control? And if you're already there, will you allow him more domain in your life? Will you give him more opportunities to use you? This decision is always the same. And if I do that, then I can step back and say, I've done the best I can. Then God gives the increase. I've done what I was supposed to do. I either watered or I planted, but now God will give the increase. I can go to sleep at night and sleep well because I know I've done what it is that the Lord has asked me to do. I don't use the, and I've learned all of the, the sermon preparation techniques. I don't use any of those.
I don't either.
It doesn't resonate with me, right? I sold life insurance. Nobody wants to talk about life insurance. Nobody wants to talk about their own death.
Right.
Nobody. But I was the number one salesperson in my office for 3 years. Because it's something that you need to talk about. I know you don't want to talk about it, but you need to talk about it. And so when I understood it, when I started to identify with it real personally, I thought about, my mother died when I was 14 years old. She just dropped dead. We had no money. So there was nothing, I talked about earlier, you said, the track and field. No, life was going on. My mom, that was in junior high school. I'm not looking to run no track. I'm looking to survive.
Yeah.
Right? I'm looking to survive. So from junior high school, 8th grade to high school, I'm trying to get my head together. What the heck is going on in life? And then 5 years after that, my dad dies. So it's like, okay, now it's like, okay, now I'm a big kid. Now I got to figure out how I'm supposed to live in a world with no money, with no foot in the door, so to speak. And I've got maybe, I think I had $3,000 totally to start my life with. That was it. Nobody to talk to, nobody to, Daddy, what you think about this? Mommy, I met this girl. You know what I'm saying? What you think of? None of that.
Yeah.
So running track, playing basketball, I had to work. I got to survive. I got to be able to survive. So what I'm saying is that the Lord has a way of giving you tools, even in the midst of crisis. And those tools are to be used so you can be the person that you say you are. And when those two things align, miracles take place. Guys like me survive.
Mm. Amen.
So Cheryl says, so glad to be able to join you for the last few minutes of the program. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Cheryl. Good to see you. So the question I'm asking Cheryl, and I want you to answer it, okay? Kimmy's already said it's a real hard question, but that's okay. I know I always ask hard questions. What do you have to do to ensure you are communicating, quote, what is good, unquote, both verbally and non-verbally? Come on, y'all. Talk to me. Talk to me.
Yes.
So you might put something. I'm looking on Facebook. I don't see anything on the Facebook page here. I don't see any comments. So y'all got to start talking to me.
Well, I mean, I think people want to talk, but it's again, it's a lot to unpack because I mean, I don't want to get into who determines what's good. You know, you got some folks that have a twisted view of things, right?
Well,
So it's
yeah,
good.
like like Diotrephes and
Right,
the gospel that we're talking about, right?
right. So definitely got that going. But I guess for me, what how do you know if you are doing good? What's yeah, how do you know that you are like your intentions are are good, but are your actions following your intentions? Right? Because I think, and I'm not saying this because I am a pastor, but I think pastors are the the most misunderstood folks, because they have to make decisions based off the overall needs of the church.
Mhm.
And when you do ministry at from that parameter, somebody is always offended. It just is this. I mean, and then you have to tell yourself, I cannot be a what is it, people pleaser, right? I got to think of everybody.
Right.
I got I got I got 2 loaves of bread and 5 fish. And I got to feed everybody with this. And of course I'm going to pray. And I think that's the component that's missing is that we have to really lean on God to know what's good, to know what's beneficial for those in our care or for those we come in contact with, because uh that dual nature stuff is real, right? I mean, some people are fortunate enough to come into Christ at an early age, and some get in here in middle age and older. So it's like, how do I untrain my natural instincts and live this Christian life, live Christ like, and do good, right? Because for some, right? Yes, you might be hungry and I might have a cabinet full of food, but if I give you this one time, how many more times are you gonna keep coming back? Some people think that way, right? And not to know that sharing is a form of good, but also showing folks how to do better and be better. Some people might get offended by it, but it's like I want to feed you, but I can't feed you all the time. But I want to give you the tools so you'll know how, to provide for yourself.
Now that's an interesting question or not a question, but it's an interesting position to look at. How do you get people prepared to provide for themselves and then be providers for others?
Right.
Because that's what we're trying to do in the church. We're trying to develop people to be their best selves, right? Which means that they will become providers like the church is provided because they are the church, right? Now we do know that the thing that we call the church is, particularly in the African American community, is the residence of more, what's the word? Well, I know the status for more middle class citizenship than any other institution in America.
Mm, really? I don't think I knew that.
Yep. That when people become a part of the body of Christ in the African American community, they begin to go from being a lower class to a middle class to an upper middle class. That has been the place where that has happened. Part of it is because of the relationship development. Part of it is because of the teaching that takes place. I mean, think about it. One of the things that we do in the church extremely well is help people to be better communicators, talking, speaking, publicly speaking. Public
Right.
speaking is one of the most one of what is people have more fear of that than they do sometimes of dying. You know, so we are good at developing those things and giving people leadership opportunities at various levels. So
True.
we are a incubator for that kind of development. And so it's difficult and challenging for pastors sometimes because many times the people that are in their congregations are better educated and have a higher position in their secular life than the pastor ever had. And so sometimes they're intimidated because of that.
Mm,
And then at other times, we give our pastors a whole lot of a credit to be able to do almost anything.
right.
Walk on water, fly through air, spend cash money like millionaires. But but they really don't have all of those skills. And sometimes they won't convey that to others, that they don't have those skills, and they'll try to do what they can't do, and then things happen. And sometimes things fall apart.
Mm, yeah, that part is true. I I have affiliation with a larger church, and that pastor has about 14, 15 ordained ministers under him. And his thing is his motto is I can't do everything by myself.
Mm,
I can't do it all. I can't be everywhere. I can't. And he raised up the deacons, he raised up the ministerial staff, and he sends. Because his thing is, I'm not meant to do this ministry by myself. I need help. And God sent you. So now I have to spend time with you, help develop what your gifts are, help you be aware of what your gifts are, empower you, and then place you strategically in this ministry so we can impact this community. And I love that model,
mhm,
right? I think that's a wonderful model because I've been a part of two other churches just growing up, well, being here in New York and growing up as a young adult. And I never seen
mm,
ministerial staff or the deacons used at that capacity, right? The only time I ever saw the deacons do anything is when they were serving communion.
mm,
And I never seen them do anything else. And so I'm like, we can learn from that because we're the church is not to be a building filled with pew members, pew
mhm.
warmers,
Right.
right? We're all supposed to, get fed, obviously, and be empowered and serve. It's not just the pastor that's serving. It's supposed to be the whole church serving and serving each other, serving the community, serving as God sees fit. And I don't see that a lot in churches.
And you're so right. Um, we don't have that type of leadership, but the pastor that you're talking about, without mentioning any names or anything like that, has a grasp of what it means to develop leadership and knows that leadership is at every level.
Right.
And when you give people leadership authority, let them do it.
Right.
Because sometimes people give you the authority, they give you the leadership title, but they don't give you the authority.
Right.
And that therein creates a problem because you haven't developed them the way they should have been developed, which is an indication that you might need some developing yourself. And B, you kind of it's kind of like that butterfly, that was in the cocoon that a student looked at it and said, wow, he's struggling really, really hard. And they went there and they snipped the cocoon so that the butterfly would be able to get out of it without having to fight so hard. And the butterfly fell out and was all deformed.
Mm.
Didn't have the strength to fly and died right there on the floor, because the struggle is where you get your development. The struggle is where you get your strength. And you have to let people do that. And then you pick them up, dust them off, and put them back out there again.
Put them back out there again.
Put them back out there again. I'm in the hood, so
it's okay. Yeah, I had something to say. I forgot what it was. I remember there is an empowerment that comes first when you join the church, right? And if you sit there long enough and you get antsy. I got antsy. Like I joined a church and I was like, I got to do something. I want to do something. I grew up in a church, but then when I found a church as an adult, I was like, I got to do something. I just can't come to church, listen to the word and go home. And I was like, okay, which ministry do I want to be a part of? My first ministry was, I was part of the ushers ministry. And just being an usher, just greeting folks when they came in, assisting them to their seat, giving them a program, giving them a daily bread. And I'm only supposed to give out one, and they're asking for 2 or 3 for their neighbor and this. And it's like, I got to let the head usher know we got to get more daily breads, because I don't feel comfortable just giving one. There was an empowerment just being part of a ministry within a church. And so, and eventually I became a head usher or whatever it was. There was an empowerment with that. So it's like every time I got a new position in church, and you're right, because I started out as a administrative assistant at work. And because I was doing well or good at church, I wanted more at work. So it was like, fine, I'm gonna go back to school. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna apply for this job. I'm gonna apply for that job, and bam, right? So the church has the ability to do that. But my question is, it's one thing to tell leaders to do good, because good will replicate good. How do we help engage a difficult new member?
And that's the question you're asking me.
I'm asking you that question.
So how do you engage someone who is disengaged?
Right. They show up though.
Right. Well, that's a big part of it, or they're there. I mean, if
Yeah.
they're not there, you can't do much with them. But
Right.
the ministry of presence is important, right? You're there. So I think what Darryl said makes a great deal of sense. Give them a chance to know who you are. And you're the pastor. You said this, right? You said that you won't do anything or ask anyone to do anything that you won't do. So one of the things that I think you have as a distinct advantage in your leadership style is that you can say to this disengaged person, come help me to do something. I have something that I'm doing. Can you help me with this? And bring them in and give them a chance to talk to you. Because a lot of times people are nervous about speaking to the person in leadership because they don't think they are on your level. So and listen, because you never know what people are going through, right? You never know. So spending time with them, just talking with them and doing something with them. It could be very, very simple. It could be as simple as, taking the garbage out. It's very simple. And they said, I thank you. I all of a sudden the floodgates open and they begin to tell you stuff. One of the things I talked about earlier, I said there are 4 motivators, right? My job is to find out which one motivates you.
Right.
My conversation with you, I may say, yeah, I don't like to ask, tell me something, tell me a little bit about yourself. I don't like to ask that question because it's too generic, so to speak, right? But I will ask them, I said, tell me something about you that I don't know, that you think I should know. You can't beat around that one, right? You gotta say something.
Gotta be direct, yeah.
Exactly. So now you answer that question. I said, I never would have guessed that about you. I never would have thought you were a runner. Now there's a conversation taking place, right? The conversation now I'm talking with you, and I may ask you additional questions because what I'm really trying to find out is whether it's love, love, envy, vanity, or fear.
Oh gosh. So when you're exercising, when you asking me a question, what did you figure out? Which category did I fall under?
Oh, yours is love. Yours is real easy. You just love people. You just love
Oh,
people. So love it's love, greed, vanity, or fear, and that's it. So some people they will say something that will give you an indication that they'll say, well, I'd like to have that. I'd really like to be in that position, right? And you say that's a good position. Did have you done something like that before? No, I have not, but I like that. I like the way they do it. That's,
mm,
that's awesome. I like that. So now I'm listening. I'm saying, now, is that vanity or is it greed?
right.
It's okay. I'm not judging them. I'm not judging them because they have this motivator, right? And I'll say to them, I said, well, let me ask you a question. What do you think it takes to get there?
Mm,
So they say, well, I don't know. Would you like to find out? Yeah.
I like that.
I'm engaging them, right? And I talked about this in my article. I said engage pedagogy. I'm engaging them in this dialogue, trying to find out what motivates them, what's driving them, what makes them get up in the morning, what excites them. And once I find that out, now I can say, okay, got it. 2 days later, I may call them and say, listen, I just heard about something. I think you might like this. What do you think about blah, 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 blah? He said, oh, yeah, I think that's good. But you know what? I don't have time. And now they start giving me the excuses, right? And I said, oh, okay. So you want to do that thing, but you don't want to pay the price. So now I'm looking at it and saying it's really not greed, it's fear. You're fearing that you probably had some experience. Now, I'm not going to say this to them, but you may have had some experience in your life where you attempted to do something and you weren't able to do it or it was taken away from you, some of those things. And so that fear keeps you from moving forward. So now how can I help you get over the fear? Well, your strategy, your leadership technique will work extremely well in that point because you'll say, let's do it together. And you get down and you pull out the weeds with him, with her. And they're like, wow, Pastor, I didn't think you did this kind of stuff.
All the time.
I love doing this kind of stuff. You don't know, but I grew up in the South. I grew up down in a little town in North Carolina. We pick weeds all the time.
All
Now
the time. That is
she's like, really? Oh my God. So all of a sudden they open up, right? Now they're talking to you differently. And
right.
then they may say, I've always been a kind of, afraid because, I don't think I have what it takes.
Right.
Now I got you. I got you 100%. I got you. Now what am I going to do with it? What am I going to
Right.
do with it?
I'm gonna empower you. I'm gonna
Exactly.
tell you you can. I'm like, who told you you couldn't? Of course
I-
you can.
yeah, of course you can. You just did it. Look, you just did this. I didn't do this. You did that. You did that. And they look and say, you're right. I did do that.
Do that.
Chest up a little bit, shoulders fall back. They stand up a little taller because now they see that it's not the big things, it's the little things that you've been doing that has been propelling you and it's gotten you where you are. But you just at the tip of the iceberg. There's a whole lot more ahead for you. You got, oh my God. And then you just encourage them and help them to move forward. That's what I like to do. One of my wow, we almost out of time. So I'm gonna let you close out. Then I got something to share. But one of my mentors told me once before. He said, "You are a manager, a man ager. You help people to mature, and that's what I like." So let me give you a chance. Let me give you a moment to close out. Hey, everybody, y'all stick with us a few minutes because we're gonna go a little bit over, but we have to because we had such a great conversation and Kim, great guest. So y'all just have to stick with us until we get through this. So Kimmy, let me turn it over to you, and then I'll share what the Lord has placed on my heart.
Well, I mean, other than this being a great discussion, and believe it or not, I'm gonna take this discussion back to my church. I mean, we're on break right now, but this is gonna be an icebreaker. when we come back in September, because it is thought provoking, and it makes us be intentional to be better, to be good, to be better at doing good. And it actually inspired me to want to do to I'm thinking I'm doing good, but now I need to make sure that I'm doing good. So, but thank you so much for it. Very rich conversation.
You know, you're welcome. I'm so glad that you came. I really am. This has been really exciting. And you know, if Fletcher would have came on, it'd been great, but he's not here. So thank you for being my guest tonight and stepping up and
Thank
stepping
you
in.
for
Thank you.
having me. And now that my Mondays are free, I can now tune in and listen
And I'll
and
bring you back.
participate.
You can come back. If you give me a date, we'll make it happen. I mean, you select the date, we'll make it happen. That's it. You know, you don't have to wait, don't have to be a year or two. No, we could do it right away.
Okay,
I like this conversation.
same.
So
Thank you.
listen, let me tell you something. Our words and our actions can and they should align themselves so that others can see the love of God through us, imitating what is good. That's the transformation, doing what is good. The transformation allows us to take off the masks, not the COVID masks, but the one we wear to hide our true identities, our camouflage, to camouflage our sins, to make us appear better than we actually are. You know those masks that we wear, right? The facade. Our transformation says we no longer have to hide behind or because of our nakedness. We can reveal ourselves because we are covered in the glory of God, washed in the blood of Jesus Christ, who is working in and through us. Everything that we are engaged in, every work, every relationship, every endeavor has a purpose that can potentially and positively influence the lives of everyone whom we encounter. Our words and our deeds must align themselves with the word of God, or their souls can be eternally lost. Tonight, Reverend Dr. Boyd and I have challenged you to be your authentic self by making your words and your actions align themselves in word and in deed. She and I, and every follower of the way, are held at a higher level of accountability. What we have said tonight means nothing if our words are not exemplified in our actions. The challenge is for all of us to be so firmly committed to exemplifying what is good for God that our words and our actions are shouting, "Don't believe me? Just watch." Thank you, Reverend Dr. Kimmy McEachin Boyd.
Thank
You
you so much,
once
Dr.
again,
Russell, Reverend Dr. Russell.
you made yourself available and transparent for the Matters of Faith family. I appreciate you and thank you for encouraging us tonight. Now, the first time you were here, which was on October 10th, 2022,
Wow.
looked and took us to another level. Tonight has been no less elevating. During your first visit, I didn't know what to expect, but tonight I thought I would be ready. You fooled me. Your transparency and your willingness to share is transformative. You're a runner, you're a comedian. I love that. I'm so glad for your personal journey and your willingness to share it with us. You are a living example of someone whose life is not afraid to challenge others. Don't believe me? Just watch.
Just watch.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
And we're better because you showed up now. You plan on coming back? Plan on coming back.
I do plan on coming back, and I'm better. You're better. Everybody's better. We're all going to do good from now on. Yay.
Now, listen, don't forget our advertisers and sponsors. The JLR Company, J. R Consulting, LLC. Those are my companies. For all your church financial needs, call 718-328-8096. Or just email me at jlorenr, JLORENR, at JLR.LLC. That's jlorenr at JLR.LLC. It's not about the castle. It's about the kingdom. Matters of Faith, the book, I've been talking about it all night, but this is the book. If y'all don't have this book, you need to get this book, okay? And I'm going to put out another one soon. Don't know when, but I'm going to put out another one soon. But this book you need to have. This is a great book, and you can get it on my Cash App, $ Matter of Faith, Matters of Faith, $ Matters of Faith. The book is $24.15, which covers shipping and handling, or you can get it as an ebook. The ebook is www.smashwords.com/books/view/993177. And you can put that and take it with you anywhere you go. That's www.smashwords.com/view/993-177. Now, let me tell you something about that number. This is amazing. I didn't make this number up. 993 is the number of the house that I grew up in when I was a teenager. 993. I live, three of the numbers of my house today is 177. So there must be something about that. I'm not into numerology, but I like those numbers. Better Mag Magazine, www.abettermag.com. Please, ma'am, please, sir, I'm encouraging you to subscribe to this magazine. They are a quarterly publication. They carry my column in their publication. They are 2-year subscription is only $27.50. It's Black owned. It's minority owned. Please, ma'am, please, sir, support them. This is the only Christian publication that my article appears in. Everyone else is secular. www.abettermag.com. And don't forget, subscribe, like, and share our Matters of Faith YouTube channel. Telephone, text, email, message, any way you do it, but tell a friend to join us regularly on Monday nights for Matters of Faith, the radio show. We are live on Matters of Faith, the YouTube channel. We also air each episode on our Matters of Faith and J. Lauren Russell Facebook groups. Please, ma'am, please, sir, subscribe, like, and share this Matters of Faith YouTube channel. And make sure you don't miss a single episode of Matters of Faith because you did not subscribe, like, and share the Matters of Faith YouTube channel. Now, the Lord bless you. The Lord keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Now, if no one has told you this today, let me be the first to say that I love you and there's absolutely nothing that you can do about it. So get used to it. Now, on behalf of my guest, Reverend Dr. Kimmy McEachin Boyd, and myself, I want to thank you so much for being with us tonight. I wish you health and strength and vitality and all that the Lord has in store for you. And please, ma'am, please, sir, join us next week so that we can do this one more time. So on behalf of my guest and myself, we say to you, good night and God bless. Stop my share, and then I am going to stop my recording. I am going to, I hope in just a moment,